Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Panatipata viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Adinādana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Kāmesu meccacara veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musāvāda veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Surameraya majjapamadatthana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Right now, let us prepare ourselves for a short sitting, doing breath meditation. As always, before we start our meditation, make sure you sit comfortably. Whether you're sitting on a chair or on the floor, make sure there is balance and you're feeling relaxed. If the weather is cold, make sure you have something warm with you, a blanket or double blanket to wrap yourself up completely. And if it is dark and you'd like something bright, you can sit before something. You can shine the lamp on the wall, especially a clear white wall or light color, something bright in front of you. And check your body, make sure your legs are comfortably folded or touching the ground. Just your lower legs are just the height of the chair. And the chair, some people are used to hard wooden chair. But make sure it is not cold. Put some bit of cushion or blanket or even newspapers. Old newspaper also can keep you warm to sit on. Put your palms together or on your lap. And body upright, but relaxed. You can slowly adjust your posture whenever you need to, whenever you feel like it. But if you sit in a balance where you find everything is comfortable, you don't need to move so much. Head slightly tilted forward, looking down about 45 degrees on the ground. You can half open your eyes if you prefer. Otherwise, it's best to close your eyes so that you can focus easiest. In breath meditation, breathe normal and relaxed like a baby. Don't control the breath. Keep the breathing just as it is. In other words, let go of the breath, and the breath will take care of itself. Most beginners will find it easy to start with counting. Breathe in, breathe out, count 1. Normal in, normal breath out, 2. In, out, 3. In, out, 4. In, out, 5. 1 to 5, 1 to 5. Or you can count up to 10 if you like. 1 to 10, 1 to 10. But don't go beyond 10. It's too big. Don't count less than 5. It's too small. So choose any number between 5 and 10 and use it in one sitting. If you make any mistakes, it's all right. Don't worry about that. Just start with 1 again. The counting is to help us push away other thoughts, to ready ourselves to watch the breath. And smile as you count. Just let your breathing be as it is. Sometimes your breath may be deep, sometimes shallow, sometimes fast, sometimes slow. In, without count, and then smile. Whenever you're distracted by pain, or by a thought, or by a sound, just smile at it. Let it go, and go back to the breath. Those of you who may not like counting or have difficulty with counting, it's quite normal. Some people don't like counting. Then in your practice, you can start right away with stage 2. In, out. When your breath has come in, note it as in. When your breath has gone out, note it as out. And then smile. Usually it's easiest to watch the end of the breath. But some people like to watch the start. So if you find it easier to watch the start, you go ahead. But some people, they follow the breath, like in, like that. So it's up to you. See which one works for you. And there are also some people who watch the middle of the breath. So choose the best way for you to focus. The idea is comfortable focus. Remember, the smiling helps you to stay focused. In, out, smile. Easy in, easy out. Relax, breathing. If you are focused and relaxed, you will notice your breathing slowing down, becoming more relaxed and slowing down, and there are gaps. The gaps, the space between your breath become longer. When you notice that, then you can move on to stage 3. It's called space. Stage 3, space. So breathe in, and then feel the space, very peaceful, even joyful. Space, smile at it. And then out, smile again. And then the space, feel it, smile at it. In, space, out, space. The space is not even, sometimes long, sometimes short, doesn't matter. Sometimes you might notice only space in one of the, either in or out. Sometimes when you are getting more focus, the space can get quite long. So just stay with it, relax, feel the peace. When you don't notice the breath and there seems to be nothing to watch, that is the space. If you notice thoughts coming, then just say, gently say, peaceful, peaceful. Smile. Stay with the peace. If you are tired, if you started off tired, you may fall asleep, and it's all right. Take that rest, which you well deserve. So you have what's called a meditative rest. And this kind of rest also may help you. So learn how to rest in this way, or it's called power rest. And then when you come out of it, continue with your meditation. Sometimes during the session, your breath may change, and you take a deep breath. That also happens. So just be mindful about it. Now the fourth stage is when you feel so peaceful that even to say in, out is very loud. It seems to be distracting. That means you are getting more focus. So there's no need to say anything. Stage 4 is called the silent stage, silent. You don't say anything at all. You are getting focused. So you just want to be at peace and feel the joy, feel the space spreading all over your mind, peaceful space. Stay with it as long as you can. At any time you are distracted or you come out of that peaceful state, go back to stage 2, in, out, or even counting. When you feel very peaceful, just let it be. Remember, sometimes the peacefulness can come quite early, so you don't have to go through all the stages one by one. If you feel peaceful early, then just stay with it. Now at this stage, please review your practice. Review your practice. Look back and see how you have meditated. Remember the joy, the peace. This will help you in your future meditations. So whenever you need inner peace, just remember this. This peace also will help you to be happy during difficult times. Also, remember any difficulties you face. And when you are outside of your meditation, read up the suttas or ask questions on how to sort out the difficulty, overcome the distraction. So this is during review. Now we're going to end this sitting. We're going to do what's called just sitting. Now during the just sitting, you are coming back into the world. You can, if you like, just say, by this good deed I've done, may I be well, may I be happy, may my loved ones be well and happy, and so on. Just send out loving kindness to other people, and of course to yourself too. This is during the just sitting period. You can still close your eyes or open your eyes, because you're getting ready to come back into the world. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Right, very good. We will now go into our lesson on Kisa Gotami. Before we start with the sutta, there's a bit of introduction. Yeah, we look at this diagram on defense mechanism or ego defense. Today's sutta is called Actually, it's more of a story. There are some Sutta teachings, lots of stories from the commentaries on this amazing woman called Kisa Gotami. This famous German humanist, psychologist, and writer, Erich Fromm, he wrote a book called The Art of Loving. And in his book, he wrote a very famous line. It says something like, if we are what we have, and we lose all that we have, what are we? Imagine if you value things and you think it's important to have things and you are proud of having a lot of things, titles, money, power, and so on. And then you lose all this. How would you feel? Nothing, right? So today's story about Kisa Gotami is something like that. This woman, she was not only thin, that's Kisa means thin, lean, so it's going to be very difficult in those days for women to find a husband if they are too thin, because people view them as, having difficulties to bear babies. And then when she had a baby, she lost the baby. So imagine how difficult it was for her. In fact, in this story, there are 4 versions of the stories of this story. We see her going through what in modern psychology is called the defense mechanism of denial. She denied the fact that her only child has died, right? So denial is a very common defense mechanism. Denial simply is saying, no, it did not happen. It did not happen to me, right? It's quite dramatic, and most people don't even know it is happening to them. For example, let's say if a mother loses her only child or youngest child whom she loves very dearly, and she refuses to believe that the child is dead. She can't accept it, right? And she will go around the house doing things, preparing food, cleaning the room and clothes and so on, as if this dead son is still alive. That's called denial. So it's part of this, what's called coping mechanism. It's not healthy because we are not dealing with reality. So it's good to know what's going on here so that we can heal ourselves. So today's story about Kisa Gotami is also a story about healing. Now, how does this defense mechanism of denial occur? So here's a diagram. Now you see the familiar 3 levels of consciousness. You have the unconscious here, and you have the preconcious here, in between the conscious and the unconscious, right? So this is the public level, the self we show ourselves to others. So now, deep in our unconscious, we have these latent tendencies of lust, repulsion, ignorance. These are very powerful, dark forces that come from the long past, previous lives, and past habits. Then in our pre-conscious here, it's a little weaker. See, instead of lust, we have greed. Instead of repulsion, there is hate. Instead of ignorance, there is delusion. So these are the 3 unwholesome roots, and this is what guides us, or rather controls us in our daily life, in the pre-conscious, meaning before we act. Greed, hate, delusion normally is there to, influence us. All right. Of course, these are negative roots. There are, of course, the positive roots, charity, love, and wisdom. Right, that also is good. But here we're talking about when the negative roots are strong. So these negative roots make us break the precepts, for example, or get angry and so on. So that's our pre-conscious. If we are trained in moral training, meditation, we know the suttas and the Dhamma, we are aware of this pre-conscious and we are more in charge of ourselves. And we say, oh, it's not good to get angry, don't be afraid, and so on. So we can deal more with it, okay? But this deeper level here, you got to do meditation in order to prevent them from rising. We cannot remove them completely. except as arahats. The arahat remove all this last repulsion, ignorance completely, and they do not suffer anymore. So these are for the awakened ones. For us, we manage this level. We don't want it to go public, so to speak, and that way we can be healthy and happy as persons. So what happens here is that when we lose something really dear to us, we feel anxious. We cannot cope. So because we cannot cope, because we feel threatened by this loss or whatever, this fear, anxiety arises. And we cannot accept this. So there is a defense, there's a block, a wall here, okay? This yellow strip here. So here is our conscious mind, the self. So the mind is not aware what's going on here in the preconcious, right? So it's hidden. We actually think it's not there. The child is dead, but this mother doesn't accept it to her. She does not even know it. Gamblers also, they are in denial that they will lose money. They keep on gambling and so on. And so so there are many situations where denial causes a lot of problems. Okay, so basically this is how it works. The defense mechanism of denial. Now it is called defense because we can't cope with this situation. So we try to defend ourselves by not thinking about it, and it is unconscious. We don't know it is there. It comes from the unconscious. Notice the latent tendencies. So one way to deal with it is to be conscious of it. How do we do this? During meditation is the best time. Okay. Of course, sometimes when you listen to Sutta, you study Suttas, and then you begin to connect things. Say, oh yes, I notice I have this. That's one way also. Okay, so you must be focused. You must be open. You must be happy listening to the Dhamma, then you notice all these skills and you know how to use them. During meditation, sometimes you can face some of these dark forces. Right? So this is why we learn both loving kindness and breath meditation. When we come face to face with this kind of dark forces from the past, we will need to strengthen ourselves, either using the breath or loving kindness. Usually loving kindness will work. So in other words, we accept ourselves as we are. We are not fearing this because it's all mind-made. We let it go. We know it is impermanent and so on. So in other words, we are bringing these unconscious defenses to the conscious level. So once they are accepted on the conscious level here, or even here, called the preconcious or conscious, we are in a better position to accept them for what they are and then deal with them accordingly, either through meditation, by talking about it. Because when you talk about it, you weaken it. You strengthen yourself because you accept it. It's just like you lose something, you talk to people, you find it helps, right? So that's how you cope with this kind of defense mechanism, by bringing it up to the conscious level. Of course, this is easier said than done. So sometimes people can help, especially people who are close to us. So it's good to know how this works, then from there you can kind of help yourself. But remember, when defenses does overtake us, we become defenseless. You know, that's the irony. Even though we may know the theory now, but at that time we just forget about it because the sorrow, the pain is really big. So this is where spiritual friends, people who help us, care for us, are important. And your Dhamma training also helps. So this is a bit of background on defenses, right? So take notes. If you have questions later, you can ask. Now, the next one is a cartoon, the defense mechanism of denial. Here you see this, the ostrich syndrome. Yeah? So the defense mechanism of denial is the refusal to accept reality, acting as if a painful event, thought or feeling did not exist or does not exist while being apparent to others. Other people notice it, but only we don't notice it. So this is the story of Kisa Gotami. Let's look at her story now. The sutta, okay. Okay, let's go on. Yeah, here you are. Kisā Gotamī. Notice here the A has got the macron over it. The line, it's called a macron, the little line there. It lengthens the vowel R. It's called vowel R, like in German, R, okay? And pronounced as Kisa. It's feminine. Kisa is feminine. If male, it is Kisa, short. Just like my name is Piya. It's got no macron, okay? Most Indians, when they hear my name, they will smile. In fact, if I write down my name as Piya, they think I'm a woman, I'm a girl, because in India, Piya is a favorite name with women. So I keep reminding them, I say, my name Piya has got no macron, it's Piya. So Piya is the masculine aspect, it's a man's name, Piya is a girl's name. So Kisa is a feminine gender. It means the one who's lean, thin, okay? Gotamī, okay? It is a family name, okay, Gotamī. Gotama is the masculine, this is feminine, Gotamī. Now, her story is very popular and it's found in a number of commentaries. The first is the Sutta, is Kisa Gotami Sutta. Okay, there you are here, the Kisa Gotami Discourse, Sutta, Samyutta 5.3, chapter 5, Sutta 3. And then comes the commentaries, long stories about her, Kisa Gotami Therī gāthā. This is her nuns verses, okay? The verses of the elder nun, Kisa Gotami. Therī gāthā, verses 213 to 223. And then there's a story, quite a long one, in the Kisa Gotami Therī Wattu. Okay, Wattu means story. Therī means nun. Now this star you see here in front, it means the commentary doesn't have this name, but we conveniently add this name so easy to refer to it. The story of the elder nun Kisa Gotami. AA, Anguttara Commentary. The second A means Atthakatha. Atthakatha is commentary. Notice here also it's a big A, Atthakatha, same, it means commentary. First A is Anguttara. Anguttara Commentary, Volume 1, page 337 to 380. The fourth story in a commentary is the Kisa Gotami Wattu. Here Wattu story, means story, Charita in Malay. The story of Kisa Gotami. DHA, Dhammapada Commentary, Chapter 8, Story 13, 8.13, and there is a short version of it in Chapter 20, Story 11, okay? So here you are. It's an early case of psychological defense mechanism of denial. Okay. By the way, we will be focusing on her story of this here scene, and there is one more. I think it's missing from here, from Samyutta Commentary. Yeah, this two. There's one more. So we're following the first one and the third one. So let's look at the story now. To 43.2c. Kisa Gotami Therī Wattu. Okay, go further down. Kisa Gotami Therī Wattu. Oh, before this, sorry, this is 43.2d. All right, coming to it now. There, okay. A bit more, yeah. Okay, here we are. Kisa Gotami Therī Wattu. Wattu is story, Therī the nun, Kisa Gotami. The story of the elder nun, Kisa Gotami. Now, in this case, composite means, you see, I've used two commentaries because the stories are very close with a bit of different details, a few different details in the two commentaries. Anguttara Commentary, Volume 1, Samyutta Commentary, Volume 1 also, and also a bit from the Therī gāthā Commentary, Dhammapada Commentary. Commentarial glosses omitted. It just simply means that, you know, where the commentator explain words, grammar, and so on. That part we have left them out because that's not part of the story. All right, so here's a story of Kisa Gotami, how she was born in the Buddha's time. Her name was Gotami, but since she was of weak disposition, she was weak and petite, small size. So the Pali says Kisa Gotami, of little flesh and blood, of thin bill, like two meanings. So because of that, because she was thin and small size, she was called Kisa Gotami. So imagine already by her looks, she has difficulties already. During the time of Padumuttara Buddha, okay, this is a long time ago, the time of Padumuttara Buddha, one of the past Buddhas, is the 10th Buddha of the 24 Buddhas before Gautama, a long time ago, basically. She was born in a family in Hangsawati. This was one of those ancient cities long ago, where people heard the Buddha. This is the Buddha Padumuttara teaching the Dharma. So the meaning here is this: all these great disciples, they lived through other Buddha's time, long ago. So they build up all this good karma until they meet the present Buddha, and then they become arhats. So she saw this disciple of the Buddha, a woman disciple. All right, one day when she reached age of discretion, this one is maybe it could be early teens, and she saw this, having seen the teacher establishing a nun as the foremost of those nuns who wore coarse robes. Gotami too did acts of merit aspiring to that position. So this is a very common theme. So this young girl, in the Kisa Gotami in a past life as a young girl, she saw this nun being declared by the Buddha that she is the foremost of all the nuns who wear rough robes. She said, "Oh, that's wonderful. I want to be like that one day." All right. So she made this aspiration. So it started there. All right? And this aspiration will come to reality at the end of the story. So for 100,000 world cycles, it's a real long time. 100,000, the world goes round and round, it ends and it starts again. For 100,000 world cycles, she was reborn. In other words, wandered in samsara amongst the devas and the humans. She was born here, died there, and reborn, and so on. After that, when the Buddha had arisen in this world, that is our Buddha, she was born into a destitute family. She was born into a poor family. When she came of age, she married into another family. Here they cut the long story short. This is one version. There they treated her badly as the daughter from the destitute family. So it's the typical story, if you like. All right, let's see what happens now. Now then something happened, okay? It is said that once in Sawati, a family's wealth of 80 million. Now the problem is this ancient stories, they use this kind of numbers. We don't exactly know what's the value like. This probably refers to coins, right? So little coins, so there are 80 million of them, so she's very rich. This family is very rich. And all this wealth turned into charcoal. Not discarding what has turned into charcoal, the landowner thought, surely there will be someone with merit, and by that merit, this will be restored to its original state. So he collected the charcoal and filled the silver and gold pots full, set them up in his shop, and sat down near them. All right, this is a typical Indian story, all right? Charcoal, this man's wealth turned into charcoal. Now, what does this mean? A person's wealth turned into charcoal? Well, put it this way, these are storytellers we are talking. This person could be, this family could be selling charcoal in the first place. And this charcoal couldn't sell, so it's stuck there in the family, right? There are many reasons this charcoal could not sell. There could be rival merchants, or for some reason, people don't buy the charcoal from them anymore. So all they have is charcoal. They got no money, it's just charcoal. So it's the storyteller's way of talking. So we've got to use our imagination, what this means. Okay, so this man, charcoal merchant, he felt, I should not throw away all this. Who knows, one day someone may come along and then help us to succeed in our business again, and then we get this charcoal turning into money again, right? So 2.3. Now, a daughter from a destitute family, so this is Kisā Gotamī, taking with her half a masaka. Masaka is a small coin. She's very poor, so this is like 10 cents, 5 cents. Thought, I will get wood and vegetable. Okay, so remember this is long ago, so a little bit of money can buy quite a lot of things. As she was going along the street, she saw the landowner and said, "There is so much wealth in your shop. How much more there must be in your house?" So it's like she has this interesting power, if you like. Either she's intelligent or she has premonition. She looked at the charcoal, she said, "Wow, you have so much of this, and you can be rich, right? There's so much wealth in your house. What is there some more inside?" And then the landowner says, "What do you see, woman, that makes you speak thus?" "This silver and gold," says the lady, says Kisa Gotami. She saw the silver and gold vessel. "This must be the person of merit," the man thought. And he asked her about her background. Having set her in order the goods in his shop, he went to see her parents and said, "There is in our house a boy who has come of age. Give this girl to him." Right? So there you are. Those days, the parents arranged the marriage. So they say, "Okay, we will get marry my son to your daughter." This house owner, this landowner, arranged with Kisa Gotami's family. And then the family says, "Sir, what kind of joke are you playing on the poor? Friendly intimacy only comes with hardship. Take her. Let her be the landlady." All right. So he brought her home to marry the boy. Right. So it's the landlord's very happy. He says, "No, don't worry. I will take her home and treat her well, make her the landlady." All right. Okay, let's see what happens now. So here you see, this is one version how Kisa Gotami got married into a happy family, into a rich family. Now, in due course, when she gave birth to a son, they accorded her proper respect. So now she has a son, they respect her. But, okay, now it's the turning point. Very, very quick story here, very short story. But when the boy was old enough to run about and play, he died. Of course, here is where a movie director, storyteller will dramatize this part, how he died. Sorrow arose in her. She went mad with grief. Okay, so this is a kind of expanded translation. She went mad with grief. She thought, on account of her being mad with grief, "I was denied wealth and honor in this house. But since the birth of my son, I have received respect. These folk may even seek to cast my son away." So there you are. This is how she thinks. So in the thing about stories here, we know the mind of the person, right? So this is called the omniscient audience. We know what's going on even inside the mind of the characters. So taking her son on her hip, the body of the child, she went from door to door saying, "Give me medicine for my son." We must remember here, the child is already dead. So it's carrying this child. She refused to believe the child is dead. She thinks the child is sick. And she goes house to house and says, "Give me medicine for my son." Wherever she went, people she met told her, "We have never heard of any medicine for the dead." So saying, they clap their hands and laugh. Right? So this is a typical traditional Indian way of behavior, clapping hands and laughing. She simply knew not what they had said. Notice this line is very important. She simply knew not what they had said. She couldn't understand what they're saying because she's in denial. See? So the word dead doesn't sound, she doesn't hear the word dead, or she doesn't see the meaning of the word dead. So this went on. Let's see what happens next. Let's go on further down. Now, a wise person seeing her thought, "This woman must have been driven out of her mind by the sorrow for her son. But as regards the medicine for her, there's no one else who would know except the one with the 10 powers. The one with the 10 powers, of course, is the Buddha. Okay, various powers like power of reading past lives and so on. So this wise man is also kind. Right? So he said to her, "Woman, as for the medicine for your son, there's no one else who knows except the one with the 10 powers. That's the Buddha, the foremost individual in the world with its devas, who resides at the vihara before us." Right? So there is in this little hut in front here. Go there and ask him. And then Kisa Gotami thought, this person speaks the truth. Taking a child, she went to the Tathagata. Tathagata here again refers to the Buddha, who at that time was seated on the Buddha seat. So sitting down in the Buddha seat where he teaches Dhamma. Standing at the edge of the congregation, she said, "Blessed One, give me medicine for my son." So it's a small gathering. So she stands at the side of the gathering and then talks so that the Buddha can hear. Say, "Blessed One, please give medicine for my son, heal my son. My son is sick," right? All right, now let's see what happens. How does the Buddha respond? Further down, mustard seeds. So 5.1, the teacher, seeing her spiritual disposition, in other words, her readiness for conversion, said, "You have done well, Gotami, in coming here for the medicine. Go into the city, bent on your goal. Walk around the whole city, and from whichever house where no one has died, fetch mustard seeds." Now, this is the classic story, the statement by the Buddha, how the Buddha counsels her. Right? Notice the Buddha communicates with her on a level that she can understand. The Buddha didn't dismiss her sorrow and say, "Oh, everyone has to die, and so on." Of course, Kisa Gotami cannot accept this. She's in denial. So the Buddha says, "You've done the right thing coming here." So comfort her, first of all, give her strength, okay? So you've done the right thing to come here, Gotami, to look for the medicine. Now, notice here, medicine. To Kisa Gotami, it means one thing, medicine for the child. In the Buddha's mind, medicine is for Kisa Gotami herself. It's a spiritual medicine, right? So same word, but different meanings to different people. Now the two meanings are separate. Later on, at the end of the story, the two meanings will merge into one. So there's another interesting literary drama we see in literature. So the Buddha instructs her, you should go into the city. Keep your goal in mind, okay? And bring me a handful of mustard seeds. So it's very easy to get, right? Mustard seed. Because this is where you can easily get from any house. In India, even today, you go to those mama shop, Indian shop, they use mustard seeds to fry things, right? So you get me a handful of mustard seeds. Caveat is that there's from a house where no one has died. This is a bit of like in Kisa Gotami's mind. It's like, oh, the house is pure, no one has died, something like that, okay? But all these are part of a profound lesson the Buddha is going to teach her. So she's very happy. She says, "Very well, Bhante." Right? With joyful heart, she entered the city. And at the very first house said, "The one with the 10 powers bids me fetch mustard seeds as medicine for my son. Give me mustard seeds." And then the people in the house say, "Here, Gotami." They said, and brought it and gave it to her. Then she replied, she said, "I cannot just take it like that. Has anyone died in this house?" Then the housekeeper said, "What are you saying, Gotami? It is impossible to count the dead here." Okay, notice what is very interesting here. This house person, anonymous, you don't even know who this is. He says something wise, which the Buddha himself would have said. But here, he is this ordinary person, not even named. He says, Where is there such a thing? Everyone dies. Okay. Now this is where the Dharma, if it is truly spoken, can be spoken by anyone, not just by the Buddha. Okay. So this is where we say the Dharma is above the teacher. So here, notice it's the common people talking the Dharma which the Buddha is trying to teach, Kisa Gotami. So this is the first lesson she hears, all right? But she still is in denial. No response. She replies and says, in that case, alas, I cannot take it. The one with the 10 powers tells me that I cannot take mustard seeds from a house where anyone has died. Again, the sentence is very significant because here at this level, Kisa Gotami is taking the Buddha's instruction literally on the word level without knowing the meaning of it, you see? So it doesn't work. She just follows, but it's a start. It's a start. So 5.4. In the same way, she went to the second house and then same situation. She got the mustard seed, but then she said, I can't take it. Someone died, and then the family say, oh, of course someone has died. And in the third house, same thing. She keeps hearing this same message. Now let's see what happens. Then, by the Buddha's power, she was free of madness, her mind restored. Okay, so here there is a gap, you see, so she's going around, so many, imagine how many houses are there in that town. It's a big town, so there are many houses. So she starts in the morning, she goes house to house, every house, because she loved the child so much, so she makes sure that doesn't miss any house. We don't know how many houses she went to, whether she went to all the houses or not. So by evening, she's already tired, she didn't take her food even, and imagine she goes to a few hundred houses, perhaps. And imagine how many times she kept hearing this message. What do you mean? Oh, someone has died, someone has died, someone has died, someone has died. She kept hearing this message hundreds of times, right? So by the Buddha's power, she was free of madness, her mind restored, because the people keep telling her the truth. So in a sense, it's the Buddha's voice coming out from hundreds of people in the city. 5.5, then she thought, this whole city must surely be like this. Meaning what? People die. In every house, someone has died. In his goodness and compassion, this must have been seen by the Buddha. Notice now, Kisa Gotami are putting the pieces together. Say, oh, now I'm beginning to see what the Buddha means when he asked me to go house to house to get the mustard seeds. This must have been seen by the Buddha. He said, wow, this is what the Buddha is trying to teach me. All right. So remember, she's still carrying the baby, and then she's standing there thinking, at the last house, wow, only now I know, so she has realized the truth. It's an amazing moment here, all right? So what happens here? Now look at section 6. Gotami awakes to the truth. Overcome with Samvega. Samvega is a powerful spiritual feeling. This is when you understand the Dharma so clearly, you say, wow, why should I should stop doing bad things. You get this feeling of powerful joy and also fear of bad things and joy in doing good. Samvega, religious feeling, powerful religious feelings. She went outside of the city, heading for the charnel ground, holding her son in her arms. So what she did was, now she said, okay, now she accepts that her child is dead. So that's what Samvega means. Well, my child is dead, and then I got to accept it. And then she has this joyful feeling of the Dharma. And she said, well, my child is dead. I got to leave her on the cemetery in the charnel ground. Then she said, now this is called apostrophe. She's talking to the child who's not there. The child is dead. So she's addressing the absent child. Actually, she's talking to us, teaching us. She says, dear little son, I thought that you alone have been overtaken by this thing called death. But you are not the only one death has overtaken. This is the law common to all mankind, right? So there you are. She's teaching herself Dhamma. It's a wonderful example of self-reliance. You learn the sutta, then you understand, say, wow, this is what it means. So when we understand this, we renounce what is not ours, what is already dead, what is meant to be sent back to the four elements, the dead child, that she loved so much, is gone. So saying, she left her son in the charnel ground. Then she uttered this stanza. Now she's wise, see? She recites, she says this. This is not the nature of a village, not the nature of a market town, not even the nature of a single family, but all the world with its devas. This indeed is the only truth, that of impermanence, right? So this is from the Apadana, okay? Apadana are stories of the saints in their past lives. Right? In the case of the Buddha, it's called Jatakas, right? So in the case of the nuns, they're called Apadanas. So here, she realized the truth. She said, wow, this death is not just one person or one village, it's the whole universe suffers from this universal truth. Notice she understands the Dhamma in the absence of the Buddha. So this should comfort us even today. In the absence of the Buddha, if we study the suttas of the Dhamma properly, we too can see the same Dhamma as Kisa Gotami did. 6.4. Now, having said this, she went before the teacher. All right. So now this is the return journey. See, so this part is beautiful, you know. So notice she was crazy. She went into denial. She went to the Buddha. The Buddha gave her instructions. She went away. That's the journey away. And then she discovered the truth, and this is the return journey back to the Buddha as a new person. And then here, then the teacher said to her, Gotami, did you get the mustard seeds? And it's almost like the Buddha is being humorous, you know, right? Did you get the mustard seeds? Very subtle humor, okay? All right, now I'm going to stop here because it's nearly 9 o'clock. We'll stop at this highlight cliffhanger and we'll come back and continue. And it is really a poignant moment, okay?
Okay. Thank you, Brother Piya. You take the 5 minutes break.
Okay. All right, let's continue. Right, the Kisa Gotami story continues. So the Buddha now asks her the question, okay. 6.4 here. Gotami, did you get the mustard seeds? Okay. Now, notice here, of course, in some versions, especially in the Mahayana stories, they say, oh, the Buddha knew what has happened and so on. But here the Buddha still asks her, Gotami, did you get the mustard seeds? Because the Buddha wants to be sure that she's being properly taught the Dhamma. And then she replies, because from the way she replies, the Buddha will know her level of understanding and change. Bhante, I'm done with the business of the master seeds. Only give me refuge, give me support. Right? This is a beautiful, very happy and warm remark. It says, that's it. I have nothing to do with master seeds anymore. I know what it's about. All right. Or some of you may say, oh, you know, you're pulling my leg, right? You know, this master seeds cannot really heal my child. But that's the whole thing, you see. This is called a skillful means by the Buddha. Mastered seeds. You can't cure anyone, especially with death. But here, the Buddha cured something beyond that, right? It brought her awakening through mastered seeds. It's amazing, isn't it? So, Kisa Gotami, give me refuge, right? So I want to follow you. I want to practice the Dhamma. Then the teacher uttered her this stanza in the Dhammapada. Dhammapada 287. The man or the person who is intoxicated by suns and cattle, whose mind is distracted, dies death carries him off, like a great flood sweeps a sleeping village. Very powerful words, no? So notice here, there's lots of symbolic terms here. Intoxicated with sons and cattle. So these are two kinds of wealth. Okay, so here you have the sons, family wealth, and the cattle is wealth in the field. So you have what do you call this? Family legacy, and then this cattle is in the Buddha's time. Cattle is a measure of wealth also, right? Cows, cattle, and then this person is distracted, and you can have all the wealth in the world. Then when we die, what happens to the wealth, right? Right? I often reflect, how much money do we need to live our life? So in a sense, in Singapore, we all have just enough money, and to the poor, the government also gives us a bit of money every month. But if you have a lot of money, you find you better set up a trust fund or donate it to some useful cause. Otherwise, you can't take it with you anyway. So that's the meaning here, right? So the Buddha says this great flood, death, sweeps us away like a sleeping village. We don't even know it's coming. At the end of the utterance of the stanza, even as she stood right there, she became a stream winner. Right? So here, listening to the Dhamma, she attained the first stage, sainthood. She requested the going forth, Babaja, as a novice here, and the teacher consented to her going forth. She thrice circumambulated the teacher, keeping him to the right, saluted him, and having gone to the nuns' quarters, received the going forth and higher ordination. Right? So you have two stages. Going forth means you take the 10 precepts as a novice. I think the women novices take extra precepts, and then the higher ordination, becoming a nun, so that she has to ordain twice, once with the monks and then with the nuns. Not long after her ordination, practicing meditation, by way of wise attention, she cultivated insight. Okay, further down. Then the teacher, appearing in a radiant form, in other words, a hologram, very bright figure of himself, he appears to this meditating Kisa Gotami, uttered this stanza. If anyone were to live for 100 years, not seeing the death-free state, nirvana, death-free state, it is better living for just a day, seeing the death-free state. Dhammapada 114. If you one day you just see nirvana, you are free from suffering. At the conclusion of the teaching, Kisa Gotami attained arahathood. So she's a woman, she became an arahat. And of course, the usual word for woman arahat is arahati, but we rarely use this word. We use the word arahat anyway. And becoming the most excellent paramukkata of those resorting to the requisites. Right? In other words, she, as a nun, she only depends on the basic fourfold requisites she has. Right? Alms food, robes, 3 hut for meditation, then kind of simple medicine for herself. She wandered about accomplished in coarse triple robes, so she wear rough robes. On another occasion, the teacher seated in Jeta's grove and assigning ranks of those foremost amongst the nuns, established her as the foremost amongst the sisters, the Theris or the nuns, who are wearers of the coarse triple robes. And she, reflecting on what great things she had won, uttered these stanzas before the teacher in praise of friendship, spiritual friendship with the master. Okay, and this is from the Dhammapada verses 213 to 233, which we'll look at a little later if there's time. Now I want to show you the awakening, how she awakened, right? Let's go further down to the part where the story about her awakening. Section 6, Kisa Gotami's awakening. Further down, section 6. Go down some more, go down, yeah. Okay, coming, yeah, there you are. Kisa Gotami's awakening. So now this story comes from the Dhammapada Commentary. Okay. One day, it was her turn to light the lamp in the Uposatha hall, the hall where the monks gathered to recite the Patimokkha, consecrated convocation hall. Having lit the lamp, she sat down and observed the tongues of flame, some flaring up, others flickering out. So she was meditating on this, just observing the lamp quietly. She took this for a subject of meditation. Remember, now she's already a stream winner. Her mind's very calm, so she could do this, right? So if you're not a seasoned meditator, you're a beginner, of course, you're not advised to meditate on a candles, for example, right? So it's not so easy. But here she's trained, and it's different with her. So she's watching this flickering flame, watching impermanence. Of course, you can look at the flame and reflect on impermanence, just like that. So she reflects this. 6.2. Even so it is with beings. Some here flare up. That means you live this full life, young person, very healthy, very happy, while others flicker away, right? They grow old. Only those who have reached Nirvana no more arise. Right? So when you don't arise, you don't go down. Okay. The teacher seated in his fragrant cell sent forth a radiant image of himself, seated as if right there before her. Now remember this part, the Buddha showing a big hologram of himself. So here you are, you see the stories embedded here. So that's how the stories are interconnected, all right? So the Buddha here, the details are given, what the Buddha told her. So the Buddha showed the connection to what she's reflecting on. The Buddha says, even as it is with a flame, so it is with living beings. Some flare up while others flicker away. Only those who have reached Nirvana no more arise. Therefore, better is life with one who lives for but a moment, but who is in Nirvana, than those who live 100 years not seeing Nirvana. Then he taught her the Dhamma, uttering this stanza. Even if one were to live 100 years not seeing the death-free state, it is better living for just a day seeing the death-free state. Right? So Dhammapada 114 again. So this is the story behind this verse. At the conclusion of the teaching, Kisa Gotami, even as she sat right there, attained her arahatu together with the analytic insight. That means she's got all these skills of language, teaching the Dhamma, and so on. Okay, so this is the story of Kisa Gotami up to her awakening. Now, there's a bit of time, so let's look at her verses. The Therī, let me see, where are we? Okay, section 43.2b near the start. SD 43.2b. 43.2b, further up, yeah, some more. Kisa Gotami, Therī gāthā. No, okay, coming already, closer. Yeah, there you are. You just passed it. Okay, very good. Now you notice the THI with the macronovate, right? Verses 213 to 223. I think there are 10 verses, right? Kalayana mittata munina lokanga dissa vanita. Kalayana mitte bhajamano api balu pandito asa. Spiritual friendship has been praised or explained by the sage in regard to the world. Resorting to spiritual friends, even the foolish would be wise. So here notice Kisa Gotami sees the Buddha as a spiritual friend guiding her kindly, right? Pajitaba sapurisa parinyatata waddati bhajatonang bhajamano sapurise sabehi pi dukhehi pamuccaya. True individuals are to be associated with. Associating thus, wisdom grows in him. Resorting to true individuals, one would be freed from all sufferings. So true individuals are referred to those who are on the path in this case, yeah? Again, we're talking about spiritual friendship. Dukancha vijaneya dukkasa cha samudayang nirodang Atangikan cha maggang chataripi arya sachani cha. One should know suffering, and suffering's arising and its ending, and the Eightfold Path, and the Four Noble Truths too. So this is how she puts the Four Noble Truths in the poem. Yeah? Okay. Dukkho iti bhavo akato purisa dhamma saratina. Okay. And then, okay, let's look at these two verses first. Being a woman has been said to be painful, by the caravan leader of persons to be tamed. Right? So she knows the suffering about having child and so on. Sapatikang pi hidukang apekacha saking vichatayo. Being a co-wife too is suffering. Co-wife, that means second wife. Some having given birth but once. Kalakeapi kantanti sukummaliniyo visani kadanti jana maraka majjagata ubopi vyasanani anubonti. Right, so let me read the first two lines so that they're all connected. Being a co-wife too is suffering. Some having given birth but once, even slit their throats. The delicate women take poisons. Those who have entered the womb are people killers. Both meet with disasters too. Now she's speaking from her experience of women during those days, maybe even today in the poor villages. So women, they're baby machines. So if once they've given birth, that's it, then they suffer. Right? So some women kill themselves rather than go to suffering. The delicate ones, those are not strong. They take poisons, kill themselves. Now, then the second last line is very interesting. Those who have entered the womb are people killers. What does this mean? Here, sometimes when the woman gets the womb in the wrong way, they can die in childbirth. Right? Those days when medical science is not advanced. Because nowadays this doesn't make sense, but it's real in Buddha's time. Women suffer if their the baby in the stomach is not in the right position, for example. All right. Upawijanya gachanti ada sahang pating matang padam hi wijatwana upatawa sakanggarang. While walking about to give birth, my husband dead, so I, having given birth to a path, not even reach my own house. Okay, now this Kisa Gotami is quoting the story of another woman who lost everything in this case. Her story is even more dramatic. One day we will look at her story. So it says, Dipatachara, while walking, she was going to give birth, then even her husband died. And then her children, she lost her children, they have not reached their house. 2 sons dead, and my husband miserably dead too on the path. Mother, father, and brother too were burning on the same fire. So this is the story of Patachara. I saw when he reached nearing the house, her old house, her parents and family, brother also had been killed in the previous night. There was a big storm, and they were being burned in the funeral pyre. So she lost everything. All right, okay, go on further down. So then she says, well, I didn't read the 219. Due puta kalakata pati cha pante mato kapanikayo mata pita cha bata daihanti cha eka citta kayang tina kulina kapane anubutante dukang aparimanang asu chate bawatang hi bahuni jati sahasani. O miserable woman, with family destroyed, you have suffered immeasurable pain, and your tears have fallen for many thousands of births. So she's reflecting on Patachara. No? And then, Wasita pasing susana maje, atopi kaditani puta mangsani, hata kulika sabagarahita mata patika amatang adikachi. Living in the heart of a channel ground, I saw then my own son's flesh devoured, with family destroyed, despised by all. Husband dead, I gained the death free. Bawito me mago ario atangiko amata gami, nibanang sachi katang damadasang ape kihang. cultivated by me is the path, noble and eightfold, leading to the death-free nirvana has been realized. I've looked into the Dharma mirror, right? So you look in the mirror of the Dharma, you see yourself. This Dharma mirror refers to stream winning usually. Ahamam hi kanta sala, ohita bhara katam hi karaniyang, Kisa Gotami Therī sui mutto citta, imang bani titi. I've removed my dot, meaning no more suffering. I've laid down the burden, done what is to be done. The elder nun Kisa Gotami, with well-liberated mind, said this. Right, so this, like, she's signing off. Okay, these verses are spoken by me. All right. So that's the end of her verses. Of course, here there's a bit of a problem, you see, because although it's a verse, you find a set of verses from Patachara also included here. So scholars interpret it as she's quoting the story of a fellow nun, Patachara, who was similarly, who lost tragically all her family in one day, and Patachara went mad also. So there you are, the story of Kisa Gotami. Is there any other part that I should present right now? So I think that's all covered, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so question time then.
Thank you, Brother Pete.
Okay.
Okay, over to you, Sister Isim, sorry.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Dear brothers and sisters, you're invited to type in your question in the chat box, or you can raise your hand to verbally ask your question. Could all of you please like on your video during this Q&A session? Thank you. Brother Pia, at the moment there is no question in the chat box.
Never mind. Yeah. It's a matter of time, huh? Right. Today is our first Minding Center Sutta series. This carry on from the SK series. So we have two people from the previous series. We have Exim now hosting your questions, and we have Wendy hosting the study. All right, so we're very happy to have them here. It gives that all warm feeling of the Sutta class. Okay, who's ready with a question? You can either type a question or you can ask live. No? Okay. Now, if you have no question, then I'm going to tell you the story of Patachara. Would you like that?
Yes, please. Yes.
Yeah, summary, just a short story. Now, the story of Patachara is perhaps the saddest story you can ever hear in literature, in world literature. Okay, there was this young girl coming from a rich family. The father is very protective of her. So when she was very young, the father would put her on the top of a 7-story tower, like Rapunzel. So she's there all by herself, protected. So the father hoping that when she grows up and marry a right man, the father would choose. So she's all there living alone. Okay, Patachara. Her name is not Patachara at that time, some other name we do not know. So every day this servant boy will go up to the top floor and give her food to eat. So the only boy she sees is this servant boy. So as good Indian movies go, you see today there's Indian movies, this amazing story. The girl fell in love with this boy, because that's the only boy she saw anyway. So one day, this girl, already mature enough as a teenager, planned to elope. So it tells the boy, look, I want to just run away, right? Of course, the boy is very scared. Said, look, I'm only a servant boy, you know. Then the girl said, don't worry, we'll go together. So they both quietly stole away one day and went far away. All right. Now this reminds us of the story of renunciation, you know, the Prince Datta going away across 3 countries, 3 kingdoms. So this young couple, teenage boy, teenage girl, ran away, far away. Different kinds of renunciation. They left the home, but to live a happy married life together. So they declared themselves married, and well, they live in a sense quite happily at the start. And then she had the first child. She's going to have this first child. And as usual, when a woman has a child, she's very young, remember, teenager, they feel like going home because they want to tell father and mother, look, you know, you can have a grandchild, and I'm sure our parents will forgive us, she thought. But the boy was very worried. The boy said, oh, no, are you sure? They're sure to get very angry and beat me up, you know, I'm only a servant boy. But then the girl said, no, we should go back, you know. So, okay, they prepared to go back. And then they walk through the forest, you know, they have to travel to the forest back home. And there was this storm was coming, very big storm. So they were caught in the forest during this really bad storm. And they had to protect themselves in the forest, stay under some bushes with big leaves, you know. And the husband was trying to get something to protect the wife. And the wife, remember, is having a child.
Yeah, this
Yes?
one is the first child coming, right?
Yes, correct.
Was there a storm then?
Well, she gave birth to the first child, and then they have to go back home. Okay, forget the storm for a while. First attempt. Okay, they have a child in the forest. No storm yet. Sorry, I combined the last 2 parts. So she goes to the forest, and she gives birth to the child. Then they both have to go back home because now she has a child. All right, so this is the first child. So that was okay. All right. Then she had this next year. She had a second child. All right. So this time again, the Patachara coaxed her husband, say, look, we got to go back again. Okay, so this time she has a child, 1-year-old boy, and the husband. So these 3 people walking in the forest again to go back. And this time there was a storm, very bad storm. And she's pregnant again, remember, no? Second time. So the baby is crying in the rain, and she's also all wet and miserable in this storm. And then her husband trying to find something to protect her. And her husband climbed up this anthill to get some big leaf. Now there was a serpent, a snake in this anthill, and the rainwater had gone in and, you know, kind of disturbed the snake, and the snake came out and bit the poor husband, and he died right there all by himself. The wife didn't even know it because they were separated. So this poor woman, all alone, waited for her husband in the storm. Husband didn't come. And she gave birth all by herself. Imagine how difficult it was, suffering. And she had this baby with her too. So she gave birth to a second child, and she had this baby with her. So now she has 2 babies, a newborn child and her 1-year-old boy. Then the next day in morning, when things are still, and she looked around and found her husband dead, bitten by a snake. Of course, she's very, very sad, very terrified, cried. Only thing to do now is to go back home, right? So mother and 2 children walked back. So they came to this river, a stream, which has become a river because of the previous night's storm, the rain. So the water usually is very shallow, just ankle deep, or just, you know, up to the knee at the most. So the water is a bit high, up to the waist. So she can't carry 2 babies together. She had just given birth, remember, she was all alone. So she decided to leave the 1-year-old child on the near bank And she carefully walked across and left the other baby, the newborn baby, on the other side. And she's coming back to fetch the 1-year-old child. On her return, she was midstream. There was this hawk, big bird, flying and saw the newborn baby, kind of reddish skin. So this eagle, or this could be a vulture, this big bird, sees the baby and thinks it is meat. So this very scary scene, this bird flies down and swoops the baby away. The poor mother is so terrified, trying to chase the bird away. I say, shoo, shoo, loudly, trying to chase the bird away. And this other boy on the other side thought that the mother is calling her, shoo, shoo. So the boy walks towards the mother into the water and got carried away, washed away by the stream. So in those few minutes, she lost both her children in the raging river water. And imagine her stuck in the middle. So all she can do is go back across and head for home, crying, feeling terrible at her loss. Now, so she is approaching near the home, and then in the sky and above the tree, she sees smoke burning, coming from a pyre. And as she came closer, she looked, there was these people gathering together and burning a couple of dead bodies. And she said, who has died? And the people gathered there say, oh, this is your parents. She found out it was her parents because in the previous night, during the storm, the big tree had collapsed on their house, on where this family is living, and killing everybody in it. So father, mother, brother all died at the same time. And she lost everyone that day. They were being cremated. So imagine, she really lost everything this time. Kisa Gotami only lost one child, but Patachara lost all her family. So she just went mad, and she went mad and started running around and lost all her clothes, so ran around naked, and people were laughing at her, mocking her, and she doesn't know, of course she doesn't know what's going on, and she just ran around, and her karma is such that she went nearer and nearer towards the monastery where the Buddha is. Or maybe people helped her and guided her. And then she kind of somehow, even such people, when they see the Buddha, there is this sense of connectedness. So she approached the Buddha, and somebody threw her a cloak and so that she could cover herself decently. And that's how she got her name. Patachara means the one who walks in a cloak. So she goes to the Buddha, in front of the Buddha, and that's where the story goes, the Buddha healed her. The Buddha spoke to her gently and said, oh, we all have lost loved ones. So now you're suffering, you're seeing all this truth. And through the healing voice of the Buddha and the teaching, she was healed, right? And she became a nun and became like a woman's champion. She was an expert in the Vinaya and other women who suffered. She will counsel them, help them. And so this is the story of the Arahat Patachara, who lost everything. And because of the Buddha, she was healed and she became a refuge to other women who were suffering like her, but not as bad as her, because she suffered really the worst situation you can get into with someone who has a family. So that's the story of Patachara. And the way she got enlightened, the way she became Arahat is very similar to Kisa Gotami. She was turning in, she was going to rest, and the first part, there are two parts to her awakening story. Okay, first she was washing her feet. She poured some water very mindfully, and the water flowed away from her foot, and the water sinks into the ground. And she poured a bit more water to wash her feet. The water goes a little bit further and then disappears into the ground. And she pours more water to wash her feet. This water goes a little even more far and went into the ground. So she reflected on this very simple event happening. Then she said, oh, look at that, impermanence. And it's like us humans, no? Some of us die young. She's reflecting on her own family, like the water that ran a short distance and disappeared into the ground. And there are some who die middle age, like the brother, like the water that disappeared to the ground midway. And there are those who die in old age, right? So the water that goes the fathers and then disappear. So she's very mindful. Right? She might have attained stream meaning at that time. I'm not so sure. Got to look at the details. Then she goes into her hut, does evening. So there's this oil lamp, and she took the needle, little metal rod, to push the wick down to extinguish the flame so that she can rest. Now she does all this very mindfully. As she does that, and then the flame zap goes up. Then the thought in her mind, oh, that's how suffering is extinguished, just like that. It goes away. And reflecting on that, she became an arahat. So this is the story of Patachara became awakened as an arahat. Okay. So there you are, the two stories today on two women who suffered greatly among the nuns. These two stories are very famous. The Patachara story also found in the Sutta Discovery series. There are, like this story, there are a lot of other details, verses in the Theravāda, Therī, and so on. Okay. Okay, let's see. Any questions this time?
At the moment, there is no question in the chat box.
Okay, let's wait a moment a bit as people getting ready. You can ask general questions also, no? Not necessarily related to today's study. Maybe some people are too sad to ask the questions.
Yes, Brother Pierre, there's one question from Sister Ka Hong.
Sure.
Thank you, Brother Pierre, for sharing the Dhamma. My question is, why Patachara has to go through these sufferings? Were these due to her past karma?
Yeah, I would say yes. You know, these are questions Bharat to answer. Why do people have to suffer? It's the nature of life. It's a package deal. So, of course, if you read up the stories of a past life, probably there's some karma from the past. But remember, these are the last lives of the great saints. So during the last life, usually something really dramatic happens. And instead of suffering and that's it, they learn from their sufferings. So the lesson for us is that if we go through such sufferings, we can either make it a big disaster or we can make it a great lesson. Up to you, right? Because whatever happens to us also has happened to other people. The question is, what do we learn from it? What do we learn from it? How can we strengthen ourselves from the tragedies and the difficulties, losses, disappointments that we face? That there are many, many others who also suffer in the same way, right? Sometimes we go through some tragedy and it's dramatic, then we get help. But then there are those who suffer every day. They don't go through all these big things, but imagine people growing old and they're all alone, their children neglect them. And of course, in Singapore, if you're lucky, you might get a one-room flat and then you're all on your own. And this whole house is going to be messy because you're too old to take care of it anyway, but you have a place to stay. So as we grow into this modern society, you have this marginal people, the old, who are lost and forgotten, even though they have their own homes, they have single room flat, So if you're really Buddhist with great compassion, there are things you can do, like maybe form a brigade, form a group to visit them, adopt them, take care of them, and they'll be so happy to have you as their adopted son or daughters. And they're going to move on, you're going to pass away. So imagine they pass away alone, it'd be very sad, right? We don't even know. There's stories in Singapore, this elderly pass away, people don't know until they smell something terrible, So it's good to take care of them if you can. We all have a lot of time, we want to volunteer. So this is one way you can do it. Maybe don't do it alone, it's difficult. Do it as a pair, as a small group, and then see how you can help them, right? Of course, we do have services where nurses do try to check on this kind of people, but I think as Buddhists, this is really a good deed you can do, not for glorification, not to publish in glossy magazines, but really helping people who have done great deeds for their children, but their children have neglected them. But you have been their children too in past lives. So now we can have this. We have this chance to, let them live their last moments happily with friends and not all alone. So there are some things to reflect on, see what you can do about it. Okay, any more questions?
Okay, thank you, Brother Piya. The next question from Brother Tan.
Sure.
Were there anyone who didn't suffer much but still attain the path?
Oh, there are stories, one or two, who kind of their life are very happy. Offhand, I can't remember, because we normally remember those dark people who suffered. They have more lessons to teach us. But I think that there are one or two. I can't remember offhand. Maybe Mahakachana, I don't know. So who done some really good karma, right? So in a sense, you can say the Buddha Siddhartha Gautama led a good life, you see, and then he left the family despite his good life. You can say the Buddha is one example. Yeah. Mahakassapa also is another example who live a good life. He's very rich. He has his land, property, but then he didn't even want to get married, and then the wife was chosen for him, and the wife also actually didn't want to get married. So two people, they didn't want to get married, but the marriage was arranged, and then they discovered through secret letters written to each other that both had the same idea. So they led celibate lives although they are married. And then one day, well, Mahakassapa was called Pipali at that time, Pipali, meaning pepper, by the way. Probably the family grew pepper plants and then made money from that. So this his laborers were drying spice, and there were lots of creatures on the ground coming out, and they were dying, So he was very compassionate. He saw this, he felt bad. He said, "Wow, look at all these creatures dying." He said, "And whose karma is this?" He asked the workers. And the workers said, "Of course, it's the master's karma. We're just employees." So that struck him with a great samvega, right? He said, "Wow, I'm responsible for this." And he decides to renounce the world just like that. And he left home. And then the wife also felt the same thing that day. So the karma is such, they borrow each other. So both decide to live home together. And then he met the Buddha. The wife joined the nuns. And so Mahakassapa's life was kind of pleasant, except for that last vision. Right, so we do have those happy lives in that sense. Okay. Okay, any more questions?
Okay, thank you, Brother Piya. There's no question at the moment.
Yeah, we have about I think less than about 40 minutes. No, sorry, I mean 10 minutes. So when you see the stories of these monks, as I said, legends about them in their past lives are found in their Padana. Lots of stories about how they showed their piety, their practice. So they're called Apadanas. So in the case of the Buddhas, the Jatakas. And then these monks and nuns also have their own verses where they, upon awakening, they would, utter these beautiful verses that would give an idea on their background also, and what kind of Dharma they reflected on, and awaken to those teachings. So that's the Theravāda and Therī gāthā. Theravāda verses of the elder monks, and Therī gāthā verses of the elder nuns.
Brother Piya,
Yes,
so a question from Sister Ratna.
sure.
Can you explain flooding in the story of Kisa Gotami?
Yes, that's right. Thanks for reminding me. So, see what the Buddha did is a counsel. In a sense, the Buddha counsel Kisa Gotami, and the idea of making Kisa Gotami go around house to house and listening to the same message again and again. Somebody has died. Somebody has died. In modern psychology, we call it flooding. Imagine somebody keep telling you somebody died, somebody died, somebody died. You hear hundreds of times, and wow, you get flooded with this message of death, you see. And it's not something easy to accept. But in the case of Kisa Gotami, it was contextual. She went house to house expecting, oh, probably this house, okay, you know, and probably nobody has died. But every house she went to, somebody has died. So we call that kind of learning, the kind of receiving this message, the same message over and over, is flooding, until in the end, she realized, wow, that's it, you know. She broke out of that shell of denial. Now, if you're really sharp, you might think this way. You say, okay, this may work in the Buddha's time, you know, where families are extended, they live together so many generations. But in Singapore, I'm not sure if this story will work, because we are mostly nuclear family, right? And sometimes the family live alone, you got just a couple, you know. So you go to a house, say, yeah, nobody has died, we're the only ones here. So it's a different story. So you do have cultural aspects of Buddhism, which we must be aware of. But of course, this all can be adjusted. Doesn't mean just because our cultural circumstances are different, means the Dharma is not true. The Dharma is still true. Although we may live alone, but for us as individuals, we have faced loved ones who have passed away before. I mean, I have known so many young people, and I know so many of them have died while young for various reasons, and that saddens me quite a lot, having known them and knowing that they have not lived their life fully. So, and that reminds us to treat the living as precious. Impermanence reminds us that we should be kind to the living, teach them the Dharma, help them to be wise, so that they create good karma, and then, you know, go on to enjoy this good karma and cut down their suffering, and then attain awakening. That's how we as Buddhists help others. Okay. All right. About.
Thank you, Brother Piya. There's a statement from Brother Jayesh Kaur. He mentioned Venerable Sariputta and Venerable Moggallana also came from good families.
Yes.
Similarly, with early arahants like Yasa and his 50 good
Very
friends.
true. Yes, very true. Yeah. There are many of these people, because of the good karma, like the Buddha, like our Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, also, they all enjoy good lives. But then they saw all this suffering around them, and that moved them to renounce. All right. So they see the suffering outside in others and within themselves, what's going to happen also. So they're strong enough to let go of the world. So it's not easy, right, to do that. Okay, any more questions?
Thank you, Brother Piya. No more questions really at the moment.
Okay, so we have about 5 minutes.
Yeah, sorry, you want to tell them about the next class? What are we going to start?
Oh, okay. The next class, I plan to teach you the most difficult sutta there is. And it's about the dependent arising. It's called the Maha Nidana Sutta. I think it's D15, right? And I think it's going to stretch over 3 sessions, I think. So we're going to look at it. At first, when I look at it, I say, oh no, this is really a difficult sutta. But then I remember I've gone through it, I've studied it. So I think it's nice to remind myself again what it's about and to teach you. So we might do it in probably 3 sessions, not to rush it, it's quite long. And we will see how, all right? So I'll be posting the sutta soon when it's ready. We have people who are proofreading it. The thing is, we often go on check-in, sometimes I get new feedback on corrections. That's why we sometimes even on the today itself we post this sutta on Kisa Gotami because all these corrections keep coming in, and we want to give you the latest ones, right? That's why we call it living translations also. So that's Maha Nidana Sutta, yeah, next round. So you make a note. And when is the next session?
2 weeks time.
2 weeks time, huh? Yeah, Friday. Okay. And meantime, if you have time, right, be proofreaders. Okay, you don't need to know Pali. Okay, as long as you can read newspapers and you can understand the suttas, you can proofread. Yeah? You check the English, the numbering of the sequences of the paragraph, things like that. There are people here who have not gone to universities, and their eyes are very sharp, and they can check all this numbering, and they're very helpful to keep the quality of the suttas high. Né? So, and also as you proofread the suttas, you also read the suttas and you benefit from it. And we are starting on volume 60 now. Volume 60 marks the 20th year of our sutta, full-time sutta work. We started in 2002, right? And we do almost daily sutta work. And although we are working on SD number 60, actually we have more than 60 volumes, there are probably about 80 volumes, because some numbers, they have double, triple. In one case, I think they're quadruple parts, A, B, C, D. So we have about 80 volumes, more than 10,000 pages altogether. So this is a special year, 2022, 20 years of full-time sutta discovery work. And the example is a sutta before you. Now we have upgraded it, we have reformatted it so that it's really easy to read, more space, and we arrange the sutta in such a way so it follow the flow of reading and things like that. And lots of notes for you so that you can study by yourself, right? So this is the Sutta Discovery series. So if you have time, volunteer as a proofreader. And so you help us to maintain the quality of the Dhamma for others to benefit also.
Thank you, Brother Piya. There's a question from Brother Kenny.
Yeah.
After listening to these 2 stories, what is the best way to train the mind?
To what, sorry? To
train the mind.
Or train the mind. Well, reflect on how all these people suffered and they didn't give up, and how the Buddha healed them in different ways. And in a sense, you can tell yourself, we are fortunate, right? The fact we don't have to go through so much pain. But then again, we don't know, anything can happen to us. So right now, what can we do, right? So the Buddha says, right now, what shall I do? We have to cultivate wisdom. To cultivate wisdom means to look into what really is going on right now in our minds. What is the thing that's going on all around us, right? Of course, when I say impermanence, it sounds so easy, but when we reflect on it, we begin to see we're all interconnected with this change in life. So how can we learn from change? How can we learn from impermanence? Reflect on that. Because there are many levels of understanding impermanence, from the simple death that you see around you to the profound way in which our minds move so fast that we don't even notice it. So my favorite teaching is always watching the nature of impermanence. That's where wisdom lies, right? Even in the story today of Kisa Gotami, you see, she talks about watching impermanence, right? Of course, they really suffer. the real great impact of impermanence, the loss of loved ones. So all these painful stories remind us that in many ways how fortunate we are to learn the Dhamma, and also reminds us no matter what happens to us, in the worst case scenario, we should not give up. We can still learn the Dhamma and awaken to true happiness. All right, we have a couple of minutes more.
Thank you, Brother Piya. There's no more question at the moment. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Any remarks on the suttas or feedback from anyone? So meantime, during this COVID, I hope this 2022 will be a better year. We always hope that. But you can make it a better year in your own mind, by following the health rules, keeping yourself healthy. Make sure you go out for your exercises if the weather is good, right? Here in Singapore, we have this beautiful lakeside gardens, which is open for us. It's really a beautiful place. A lot of people go there for walks, exercise. Chinese garden, Japanese garden are still closed. Once they're open, very easy for us, very near our house, we can cut across. No? So these are places for you to go to nature, see the trees like the way the early monks did. So your health is very important as Buddhists. Health is wealth. No? Health is the highest gain of all profits. Health is the greatest profit. This is what the Dhammapada says. When we are healthy, we can study the suttas better. We can help others also. Right? So health is very important. Mental health, physical health. You go together, right? Exercise for your physical health, meditation for your mental health. They go together. Okay, on that note, I think we... Yes?
Okay, Brother Piya, Sister Ikustu raised her hand.
Okay, sure.
Sorry for the last minute question.
No problem, yeah.
Okay, I just reflected regarding about today's, can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay, regarding about today's topic, about impermanence and suffering.
Yeah.
So I have a question that regarding about suffering, how, as you said, that we need to cultivate the wisdom to understand, so that we can let go of it. It's not easy, easier said than done. So I have a question that, does it have to do with how we perceive it? It will make a difference.
Yeah,
example,
of course.
One, if you see it as something that is a curse to us, if you see it from the view of aversion or delusion, it's different. Or the other way is if we see it as something for us to understand, then the question will be, is that something for me to learn from this situation?
Yeah.
Is this question that we need to ask, that be aware of, so that we can understand better?
Well, it's not an easy question to answer, because this is in a sense, we call it the final problem, so to speak, man. Permanence, death, suffering. This is what, in the first place, make the Buddha leave home, make Siddhartha leave home. My simple answer would be, just be ready when the truth comes to you. Don't rationalize it. Don't cosmeticize it. Just keep asking yourself, what is going on here? What must I learn about this? So ask questions. Ask yourself those basic questions, right? Following the Four Noble Truths. Take the Four Noble Truths as four noble questions. Number one, what is this suffering? What is this? I mean, suffering, yeah, but what kind of suffering is it, right? Accept it as it is. Someone has died, someone I knew has died. Take it like that. It's a reflection. Don't hide it away. So that's the first thing. Ask the question, define it, take it as it is. Then number two is not so easy. Number two is, why did it arise? you can say, what's the nature of life? You know, this person died because of this, because of that, you know. Yeah, these are short-term immediate answers, but then there are deeper things. It will come to you. I don't have all the answers, and I should not give you all the answers, because part of your training as a Buddhist is to discover the answers for yourself. Then you come to the third question, right? Then there is a solution, okay? So how do I deal with this for myself? I have to stay healthy, I have to be prepared, or I should be kind to others, whatever. So different answers will come to you on the third noble question. And the last one is, you got to do it. It's the path. You got to walk that path. You got to do it, right? So ask yourself the Four Noble Questions. Take the Four Noble Truths as questions for yourself in terms of the Four Noble Truths. Okay, so reflect on that and see how you can use it wisely for yourself. All right, so Happy New Year to you all once again, because this is still January, right? What's wonderful. Okay, so
Before we end, take photos first.
yes, I don't. Okay, okay.
Okay.
All right.
1, 2, 3. Smile. Okay, that's good. Thank you.
All right. Good to see William and Woody here. Huh? Very good.
Yeah. Back to you. Over to you, Sister Wendy.
Okay. So today, Ron and I would like to thank Sister Wendy and Exim for helping us to run this Sutta study with you. Now let us get ready to close, to reflect this precious moment we spent together. We have learned some difficult lessons today on how some of those early women and arahats have suffered. And in many ways, we are fortunate. Let us use this good fortune to build up our own inner strength and to reach out to others to help them to lessen suffering in the world. And at this point, we should remember the three important jewels in our life: the Buddha, our one and only teacher, to whom we bow, and the teaching that we follow and that will free us, the Dhamma, and those noble ones who have followed the path, who are examples to us. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Bow down. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namassami. Bow down. Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Bow down. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So once again, Happy New Year to everyone and have a good weekend.